This is Talk Easy. I'm Sam Fragoso. Welcome to the show.
Viola Davis.
Yes.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
We're in the Actors Equity building.
Oh my goodness. This is where I would come every year to do my taxes. But the reason why I came to the Actors Equity building is they would do your taxes for free.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. So I'd get here at 4 o'clock in the morning, sleep in front of that damn door, get my taxes done and mail it.
You got your Actors Equity card after doing Joe Turner's Come and Gone, right?
That's right. I became a professional actress.
Well, I think you were 23 at the time?
23.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the building has good but mostly sleepy memories, is what I'm hearing. So let's try to create a better, more lasting memory
Okay.
today. Around your last big action hero film, The Woman King,
Yes.
you said the story, quote, resuscitated you. I'm dark-skinned, I have a deep voice, and my whole life I've been told that I'm too strong, too masculine. We redefine what it means to be feminine in The Woman King, and it liberated me. Is it from that liberation that you felt, well, the only role to play after the Woman King is the President of the United States?
It wasn't intentional. I think that people see your career so much as intentional. And what that would mean is that you have so much control over your work. And there are no words to describe the business of acting. 1% of actors make $50,000 a year or more, and usually those are background actors, and only 0.04% of actors are famous. You don't get control over your material. Every once in a while, you have an actor out there, maybe the Leonardo DiCaprios, who could go out there and say, I want to work with this director. But usually with the rest of us, it's you're on a wing and a prayer.
Right.
But the thing about this profession, because there's so much deprivation, you always want to figure out what to do in order to work. So a lot of people copy everyone else's hairstyle. They copy everyone else's body. You know, all the women out there trying to lose weight. Maybe they get plastic surgery, who knows? But very few people sort of relish in exactly who they are.
And do you relish in that?
I have to. I don't know how to be anyone else. And yes, was I liberated from everything that makes you or defines you as feminine? Yes, for the Woman King. But I've been liberated by everything that defined me as being anything. I feel like I define me. Totally. I don't want any limits on me, my sexuality, my sexiness in terms of my sexuality, my voice, what I can or can't do at what age. I refuse to limit myself. I think that's where progressiveness comes in. That person who's willing to step out on faith and do what it is that they're called to do. Yeah.
You said that in making this movie, that not every film I make has to win an Academy Award.
Oh, God, yes.
But are you sure the Academy should overlook the scene where you shoot someone in the foot, punch him in the face, all while in a red dress?
Let me tell you something. I do need an award for that damn red dress. Listen, you know what award...
That's the last joke question I'll ask you.
No, we got to have some laughs.
Thank God.
I mean, this has been that's one of the reasons why I did the movie too. I want people to be able to get together with their families at home and watch the movie in the same way they commit to Air Force One, Die Hard, Sigourney Weaver, and Alien. I want them to commit to me. And I don't think that that is a bad thing. I don't think that, every movie I make has to make a grand statement even. I think sometimes it needs to just be pure entertainment.
Well, I was thoroughly entertained. You made this film through your production company.
Yes.
And the mission statement of the company is to, quote, change the landscape. It's hard for people to see us beyond the narratives that are didactic. We're trying to change that. So tell me, how does G20 fit into that mission statement? What does change look like to you and your production company?
First of all, because I'm the lead in a movie.
Yeah.
I'm 59 years old, and I play the President of the United States with my body, my skin tone, my face, and the people in the movie reflect the audience. but I'm the center of the narrative. Then you have Ramon Rodriguez. You have Patricia Regan, who is Mexican, Guadalajara, who's directing it. It reflects the audience. So often I don't think that we understand. It's like I did a movie one time years ago, and my husband, we went to see it in the movie theater. He said, "You were the only Black person in that town. Even when we looked in the background in the hardware store that you were at, there was no one Black, brown, or nothing." But a lot of times, movies do not reflect the world. And, once I got to a certain level, then I needed to be the change that I wanted to see. It's like that saying, once you're free, it's your job to free others. And there is no that closet in the studios filled with scripts for young African-American actresses, for older African-American actresses, for any actress of color. They're not there. And so if you don't create them, then what you have is maybe actresses who do one really great movie, and then they sit around for another year or two until maybe they find something else. I don't think that people understand the deprivation there is in material, and it's the material that pops you.
So in this scene that people are about to hear, your character, President Sutton, is negotiating with a group of attackers attempting to destabilize the world economy and corner the market on cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
Odd timing for us to play this scene. Your character speaks first.
Why would a mercenary take on the G20?
What? Wait, you call me a mercenary? Lady, you fought a war over gasoline.
I served my country just as I serve it now.
Yeah, blindly. You serve it blindly. You were used by them then, and they're using you now.
So you feel used? That's why you terrorize the world and crash markets?
We want to switch to cryptocurrency so that
Bullshit. This isn't about crypto. You want to crash currencies to get rich? It seems like something personal. What are you after?
I'm after you.
Like we said, in G20, you play the president and you're the star of the film.
Yeah.
Which means, like Harrison Ford in Air Force One, you were number one on the call sheet.
Yes.
But before you went into the film, in the middle of the pandemic, as you began writing your memoir, you said in one interview, "I had to press a reset button in my life. I had a crisis of meaning in 2020. You get to number one and that's your life. Once I got there, it felt like somebody lied to me."
Yeah.
What does a crisis of meaning look like for Viola Davis?
A crisis of meaning for Viola Davis, I think, is probably what it looks like to everyone. When you set out on the path to become something, so you think, okay, I'm going to become a famous actress. So that's the goal, that's the vision, all right? And then you hit it, and then you realize that's just not it. There is a disillusionment that happens. There's an emptiness that happens. And to be perfectly honest, there's an isolation and a loneliness that happens.
And that happened to you?
Oh, totally. And I have to tell you, it sort of hit after The Help, but it really reared its ugly head during How to Get Away with Murder. Because here's the thing. Whatever goal you set in life is just the cosmic carrot to what life is supposed to be about. The cosmic carrot is the goal, but really, truly, it's the journey and who you're becoming. It's a quote that I've been using again and again during this whole publicity tour, which is, your purpose in life is not what you do. It's what happens to people when you do what you do. That's it. I mean, I always tell people, even now, when you push your kid and you want your kid to be the top of the top and the best of the best, you have to know, invest some money in mental health treatment because they're going to need it. Because what's going to happen is when they are not that thing all the time, if they're not accomplishing something all the time, they're not going to know how to sit with themselves. And it's who you are that's more important than what you do. That was my big
There's a Stevie Wonder song.
Yep.
Where he sings, "Show me how to do like you."
Yeah.
Show me how to do it.
Yeah. I stole that from Alice Walker. She opens The Color Purple with that quote. And it took me the longest time to realize that. And I realized it was the whole relationship between Celie and Shug Avery, where Shug Avery taught Celie how to love herself, basically. Taught her how to, find home. And I think it sounds kumbaya.
Listen, the show is called Talk Easy.
Yes.
Kumbaya is just part of the equation.
Yeah.
So you do not need to apologize for kumbaya. But this book that you wrote, Finding Me, does feel like an invitation and a gift and an offering to discover and rediscover your younger self.
Yeah.
And so I want to understand that young version of you a little bit. Like you're born in 1965.
Yep.
You're delivered by your grandmother in her home on the Singleton Plantation in St. Matthews, South Carolina.
Yes.
As the fifth of 6 children, most of your family then relocates to Central Falls, Rhode Island.
Yep.
A small mill town that was close to 2 racetracks that your father worked at. Mm-hmm. You were also the first African-American family to live in that community. But come the age of 5, you meet your older sister, Diane, for the first time. She was maybe 9 years old, I think.
Yep.
When she enters the bathroom with you, how does that scene unfold as we sit here right now? How do you see it?
You know what? How I see it now that was the first seed of curiosity, which is a very, very powerful word to me. And the curiosity was, at 5 years old, it was one of the few times we had hot water. So I was taking a bath, and all I heard was a voice that said, "I want to see my baby sister. I want to see my baby sister." And I got out of the bathtub, and she stared at me, and she looked around the house, we grew up extremely poor. And she said the one phrase that opened my world, which is, "What do you want to be, Viola?" And I call that the call to adventure. I think that a lot of people feel like the call to adventure is, I have this great opportunity for you to work, somewhere and make a lot of money and blah, 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 blah. But the call to adventure for me was, what do I want to become? Who do I want to become? And is that exactly what the journey should be? I didn't know that. I mean, of course, I was 5 years old at the time, but I don't think that it matters how old you are. I think once the seed is planted, it's planted.
Why do you think she asked you that? How do you think she knew to plant the seed?
They say that every hero, what I mean by hero
Joseph
is
Campbell.
Joseph Campbell, is anyone who wants to slay their demons in life. That's anybody.
So that could be any of us.
Any of us. Because she didn't want to be poor.
She didn't want it.
It's very simple. She grew up even at Singleton Plantation for many, many years and grew up in segregated schools where she was beaten.
Had no indoor bathroom.
No indoor bathroom, and saw a bathroom for the first time when she was right before she came to live with us. And she couldn't believe it. Her jaw dropped because she saw the possibilities in life. And I mean, I think it would be a better question for her, but what she did was she passed the baton on to me unknowingly.
You've described your childhood at 128 Washington Street as full of rage and alcoholism.
Yeah.
It was a war zone. If it was a war zone, who were the casualties?
I was a casualty. My siblings were the casualty. My mom was a casualty. My mom is now in advanced dementia, and I absolutely, absolutely believe that the level of abuse that she endured caused that. So you do suffer trauma when you grow up in some level of poverty, and when you grow up with, they say the first enemy of a child is an unhealed parent. And I had 2 unhealed parents. And certainly in every community, we have unhealed parents. But when it becomes the African-American community, you have the 1-2 punch of family trauma and cultural trauma. A trauma of people that just don't see you. a world that just doesn't see you. And I think that was a double whammy for my dad, who raged out of control. And I'm just guessing at that because he was not curious. And so that he raged.
What do you mean he wasn't curious?
He wasn't curious enough to know what was behind that rage and to heal it, is what I'm saying. It's all we have is curiosity. All we have is curiosity to wake up every single day with, I don't know, you walk into any situation and you have anxiety, to just say, what's that? Where's that coming from? Or do you just live with it? Do you say that, you know what, I want to live a transcendent life. I don't want to roll into my grave being just a sort of mere, the crappy version of myself. That's what curiosity does. It keeps you growing, you know? And it doesn't mean that it's perfect growth, but it does mean that you're curious enough to know who you are.
Inside that home, I want to better understand how you coexisted and made it through. And to do that, I thought you could read from page 70 of your book.
Oh, page 70? Okay.
I have it highlighted here.
Oh my goodness. What is page 70? Just the highlighted parts?
I think so.
But sometimes we would go to the bar. Back in the day when parents could take kids to the bar and play darts and pool and be treated to Sprite and potato chips. These happy moments would soon be followed by trauma. The rage of my dad's alcoholic binges, violence, poverty, hunger, and isolation. In my child's mind, I was the problem. I would retreat to the bathroom, put something against the door so no one would come in, and I'd sit for an inordinate amount of time staring at my fingers and hands and try to erase everything in my mind. I wish I could elevate out of my body, leave it. One time when I was about 9 years old, I succeeded. I left it. My body, that is, in a manner of speaking. I floated up to the ceiling, looking down at myself, observing my hair, my legs, and my face. Then I faced myself, staring directly into me. Wow. I loved it. It was a magical secret power, only I didn't see myself as magical or powerful. I just felt free. It was my way of disappearing. It was my high. I couldn't always control this out-of-body sense, but when I could, it was beyond fabulous. The power to leave my body, to be relieved of Viola for a while, was an ever-present image that followed me for decades.
How did you feel reading that?
You know what? When I look back at little Viola, I never felt safe. You know what? Even worse than that, I felt wrong. I felt like whoever was building me up there in the sky just did everything wrong. Put me in the wrong family, put me in the wrong circumstances, didn't make me pretty enough, made me too black. Every aspect of me was wrong. I didn't see any evidence in life of love. I couldn't articulate it at the time. I just sort of disappeared and numbed. Because that's what you do when you grow up in violence too. You do everything you can to make yourself as small as possible. And then I was a bedwetter. And then adding the poverty with that, it just felt wrong. If I did have a call to adventure, it would be to find self-love, to find God who can put the deus ex machina, that's what they call it in Greek tragedy, the God from the machine that would pluck characters out of a play. And when they plucked them out of the play, it was a sign that they were dead. But I just wanted I wanted God to appear to tell me that I was made with love or some level of purpose, because I didn't see any evidence of it. None.
I don't know if God appeared, but Cicely Tyson in the autobiography of Miss Jane Pittman did appear.
Yes.
And she did come down.
Yes.
And pluck you.
Yes.
1974.
Yes.
You and your family crowding around the TV.
Yes.
What happened?
You know what? It's that emoji. I'm using it more now, the emoji where the brain is being blown to bits. That's what it was. It was the emoji where it was a God moment. It was a Sermon on the Mount. It was the burning bush, as Elizabeth Gilbert would say. It's one of those moments where, the wind stopped blowing, because what I saw was magic. I saw excellence. And I saw it in the body of a woman who looked like me, who really looked like my mom. My mom and her very, very similar. And I saw evidence of what I wanted to become.
And that scene that you just read from,
Yeah.
in the bathroom, disassociating, elevating, some kind of magic trick in that, leaving your body, becoming somebody else.
Yeah.
Do you think that paired with Miss Tyson's work were the early foundations for you as a young actor?
Absolutely. But there was a lot of early foundations. Miss Tyson was one of them. My sister Diane was one of them. Mr. Yates, my drama teacher, was one of them. Mr. Aces, who was the head of the Glee Club, was one of them. My sister Dolores, the birth of my sister Danielle, who I loved more than anything, on the planet. All of those were signs that carried me.
Carried you to Rhode Island College.
Yeah.
Having participated in the Upward Bound program in high school. I heard you used to tell people, acting is not what I do, it's who I am.
Oh my God. I take that back. I take that back a little bit. It is what I do.
But at the time, it was true.
At the time, it was true because it was healing.
And there's one performance that's not in your memoir that I think really represents your commitment to becoming an actor. I don't know if you know what I'm going to say.
Oh my God. I hope you're not going to say something bad, but
no such thing. At some point during college, or maybe a little after college, you performed this one-woman show as musician Etta Jones all across Rhode Island. You wore a blue dress, I don't know if it was as blue as that, in the performance. And you even did the show once at a basketball court.
Yep.
Where one person was in the audience, people were playing basketball, and I think there was a dog.
Yep. That jumped on me.
Tell me about this performance.
It was horrible, first of all. It was not a good performance. But you know what? I say that with great pride. Cicely Jones, she's an opera singer out of Rhode Island. I think in the turn of the 20th century, which I can't even sing. And I think I sang 14 songs.
I was told you were going to sing a couple of them for us today.
My God, no. But you know what though? Here's the thing. You really do learn through failure. You really do. Because I remember my sisters came to see it and they were like, that was awful. They said, did you even hear yourself? I mean, it was awful. And I remember I felt so bad. But here's the thing. I got up and I did it again. And it was still bad, but a little bit better. And then I did it again. And I did it again. And I think that what happens with all of that is by the time I got to the final performance, it was a final performance where it was just an audience of one. And it was greatly improved.
Was that at the basketball court?
No, the basketball court was maybe 4 people.
Okay.
The final performance was 1 person. And if you're willing to go through the pain and work with fear, I think there's some beautiful discoveries there. And the beautiful discovery I made is I had it in me. I had the tools to live better, to work myself through failure. It wasn't the performance that mattered. That's just a cosmic carrot. It's the journey in taking out everything that I had within me to keep going. And for me, that's proof positive of God's love. I call it God's love for me, because he gave me the courage to know that there was something even better even within a performance that probably I wasn't even right for.
I love that story. And I don't know, it's not in the book, but I love that story because if you're going to do it, you're going to do it. Anywhere, anytime, for anyone, at any place,
Absolutely.
at a basketball court,
Absolutely.
dog barking, people playing pickup in
Absolutely.
the background, even in a blue silk dress.
That's right.
You either do or don't.
It's the doing it that's the beauty of it.
In many ways, it's the only thing that really matters.
That's it.
Do you show up?
Show up.
You showed up to your audition to Juilliard and said, I have 45 minutes for this audition. Is that true?
That is true.
And they said what?
They said the first, you audition a lot at Juilliard. At the time, it had a 3% acceptance rate. So the first room I auditioned, and I was so nervous at the time, but I said, I only have 45 minutes. I have to get back to the theater in Providence. I have to get on the train. It's a 4-hour trip. And so they talked amongst themselves after seeing my audition, and then they stopped all the auditions that they had. There were it seemed like hundreds of kids there. And they took all their chairs. All of the teachers took all their chairs into the big, it was a rehearsal room. It's the biggest, I think, room 103. I remember the room 103. They took all their chairs in there. Because at Juilliard, you audition for a different set of teachers, like maybe 5 auditions. You're there all day, sometimes 2 or 3 days. So all of them took their chairs into one room to see me. And I knew I had gotten in. You know what I miss about myself at that time? I'm just thinking about this. That I knew that I knew that I knew that I was good. I think that as you go along, the imposter syndrome can take over more. And that's because you're exposed to the world. And no one could tell you the sort of hyper biblical level of confidence you need when you're at that level of your profession. You know, you almost have to have an arrogant level of confidence, which I do not have. But at that point, I knew I was good. I knew I was going to get in. I just did. And there's something about that I miss. I could take a sliver of that now.
So you're saying the performer that was in $50,000 of college debt was more confident than EGOT winner Viola Davis?
Yeah.
What the hell does that mean?
When I say confident too, is you always want to be better. Okay? You do. I'm contradicting myself a little bit, what I'm about to say. I'm not mad at the imposter syndrome. I think it's underrated, actually. Okay? But at the time, I didn't even have imposter syndrome. I just knew that I knew that I knew that I was great. I did. Now that the world has gotten to me, it's like, oh, I could have been better. Oh, this. Oh, yeah, I got the EGOT, but, I could have done this better. I could have done that better. Now, Viola herself, which is different than Viola Younger now. This is not the work. This is just me. Way more self-love. Those are 2 different things.
That's the trade-off.
Yeah.
At Juilliard, what was the objective of their training? Were they shaping you into a good actress or a perfect white actress?
Definitely a perfect white actress.
And what does that look like?
What it looks like, it's technical training. in order to deal with the classics, in order to deal with the Strindbergs and the O'Neills and the Chekhovs and the Shakespeare. I totally understand that, to get your voice, everything. But what it denies is the human being behind all of that. I feel that as a Black actress, I'm always being tasked to show that I have range by doing white work. So if I can master, I don't know, Blanche DuBois and Tennessee Williams, Streetcar Named Desire.
Which I'd love to see, by the way.
I would love to see it too. I did it in class once. I could do the best I can with Tennessee Williams, but he writes for fragile white women. Beautiful work, but it's not me. Or do a fabulous job playing, I don't know, Hermione in Winter's Tale and Shakespeare. But we don't put those same parameters on white actors. You can have a white actress who's 54, 55 years old, which is a great age to play Mama in Raising the Sun. Is she going to be able to pull off Mama in Raising the Sun? Is she going to be able to pull off Beneatha? Is she going to be able to pull off Molly in Joe Turner's Come and Gone when Molly says, I ain't going south, and make me believe it? They don't have to do that. So for those 4 years at Juilliard, all the white actor has to do is play all white characters. That's not me. I'm tasked to only do the classics. And no Black writer is included in those classics. And then once I leave Juilliard, guess what? Most of what I will be asked to do are Black characters, which people will not feel that I am Black enough. So then I'm caught in a quagmire, this sort of in-between place of sort of not understanding how to use myself as the canvas. Juilliard was an out-of-body experience because, once again, I did not think that I could use me. Me needed to be left at the front door, even though me was what got me in there.
You is what also delivered you to the work of August Wilson.
Yes.
When you leave college, speaking of a playwright that's not often taught in school, people know you from Fences, Ma Rainey, King Henry II, but your first Tony nomination came from your turn in Seven Guitars.
Yes.
In the mid-90s, I think it was.
Yes.
But on the subject of whiteness, was there a Q&A you had after one performance where there was a certain response from someone that made you, that opened your eyes to the conditions in which you were working?
Yes. It was in San Francisco at ACT.
You mean liberal San Francisco?
Liberal San Francisco. Sometimes the liberal or, conservative is just a mask for something else. But it was after a performance, and one of the audience members raised their hand and said, why should we care about Floyd Schoolboy Barton, which is the main subject, the character in Seven Guitars, who's a blues singer who's just come out of jail. He comes out of jail, he makes a hit, he has a hit record, and he's about to be famous, and he gets killed. It's a tragedy. And in the end, this audience member said, I didn't feel anything. Why should we care about him? Was he famous? It's not like he's B.B. King, so why should we care about him?
He's not in the history books.
He's not in the history books. And for me, that's something deeper. It's a huge problem I have with narratives.
What is it?
I think that people have a hard time sitting with a Black character for 2 hours, whether it's in a movie or whether it's in a play. I think they're okay with it if it's an allegory, if we're not really representing a human being. Okay? If we're representing an idea, maybe they'll carry it, okay? Because then they can look at it academically.
They can attach it to a politic or something
Absolutely.
like that. Right.
Maybe they could do it if it's not deep. If it's maybe a comedy. But to have someone sit with you like you would in All My Sons, Death of a Salesman. You know, there is a sort of bartering for our worth in narratives that if I've made it into a history book, then I can know, as maybe someone white, I'll know that you're worthy of my time in the theater. Me being worthy of anyone's time in the theater is me breathing. Toni Morrison coined the phrase, the white gaze. And the reason why she coined it is because she said every time she put pen to paper, she had an imaginary white character on her shoulder that kept saying, write for me, make me understand it. I don't understand it. Make me understand it. And so she felt that every time she read any work, even if it were The Invisible Man or Frederick Douglass's autobiography, she said the reason why she knew it wasn't written for her is because they were explaining things that you wouldn't have to explain to her. Okay? She even felt that Frederick Douglass was holding something back. When she got her first review for Shula in New York Times, a glowing review, but the one aspect of the review that really threw her was the writer said she could be brilliant if she only had white characters in it. I want to be seen as human, as fragile, as messy, as much of a paradox as any character in Tennessee Williams or Anton Chekhov or Eugene O'Neill. And I think that I want you to sit with me. Even if I have 5 minutes of a silent moment because of what is happening in my life, as Arthur Miller said in View from the Bridge about Eddie, he's like, he may be a despicable character, but something is happening to him and attention needs to be made. Attention needs to be made with us. I'm many things beyond my blackness.
Your artistry in that play, Seven Guitars, I never got to see it. I think I was 3 or 4 at the time.
Yeah.
Parents could have taken me, maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to hold like how you saw your purpose and your artistry in that moment, working long, long hours in these theater productions that were paying you okay, but you know, can't buy a home. And to do that, I want to set up a scene in the play, which is set in a Pittsburgh tenement in 1948, where you play Vera, the sometimes girlfriend to the 1940s blues musician Floyd, who's trying in this scene to desperately get Vera back.
Yeah.
In the production, you played Vera, and I think it was Keith David,
yeah,
who played Floyd. But I'd like to swap roles for today and see if we can read this scene together. Okay, here we go. Doing a scene opposite of you as someone who's not an actor is horrifying. Thankfully, this is mostly you talking in this scene.
Yeah, and I'm playing Floyd. I mean,
okay, ready?
Okay.
I want to say yeah, but what am I saying yeah to? Another heartache, another time for you to walk out the door with another woman?
You was there too, Vera. You had a hand in whatever it was. Maybe all the times we don't know the effect of what we do, but we cause what happens to us. Sometimes even in little ways we can't see. I went up to Chicago with Pearl Brown because she was willing to believe that I could take her someplace she wanted to go, that I could give her things that she wanted to have. She told me by that it was possible. Even sometimes when you question yourself, when you wonder, can you really make the music work for you? Can you find a way to get it out into the world so it can burst in the air and have it mean something to somebody? She didn't know if I could do that, if I could have a hit record, but she was willing to believe it. Maybe it was selfish of her. Maybe she believed for all the wrong reasons, but that gave me a chance to try. So yeah, I took it. It wasn't easy. I was scared, but when them red lights came on in that recording studio, it was like a bell ringing in the boxing match, and I did it. I reached down inside me and I pulled out whatever was there. I did like my mama told me. I did my best. And I figured nobody could fault me for that. Then when they didn't release the record, Pearl Brown left. She thought she had believed wrong. I don't fault her for that. But I never lost a belief in myself. Then when they released the record, I realized I didn't have nothing but a hit record. I come back to you figuring you couldn't say no to a man who had got a hit record, but you did. And that made me see that you wanted more than Pearl Brown. I'm here saying I can give it to you. Try me one more time, and I'll never jump back on you in life.
I got to thinking, and I went down to the Greyhound bus station too. Here. See that? See, what does that say? It says one way, Chicago to Pittsburgh. It's good for 1 year from date to purchase. I'm going to put that in my shoe. When we get to Chicago, I'm going to walk around on it. I hope I never have to use it.
Well, that's all right. I forgot all about that scene.
I can tell one person has won a Tony Award in this conversation. Did the music begin to work for you? Did it burst into the air, into the world, when you got the role in Doubt?
Oh, most definitely. That's when it burst in the air.
Because I love that description of art. I think
I
so
love
good.
that line. I try to use it all the time, and I always misquote it.
You can take that with you today.
Because that's what you want with your art. You want it to mean something to someone. Arthur Miller says it. I write so people can feel less alone. I mean, I think that there's probably a lot of young actors coming up now who just want the awards and they want the money. But really a true artist wants it to sort of burst in the air. And they want it to sort of shift people. Shift how you think about yourself and the world. I mean, that's the goal. It's a lofty goal, but it's a goal nevertheless.
You wrote a 100-page biography for that character in Doubt.
Yeah.
A character that appears in the movie for less than 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Tell me how you go about unpacking a character like that. Before you go unpack, how you go about unpacking any character from that period onward.
I will say that one of the things that I always do is, first of all, they say in acting you have to be an observer and a thief. The observing part comes from life, and the thief probably comes from looking at other actors' work. But the observing, I always have to think of something in my life that I can compare it to. I was lost because I didn't understand the woman who would allow her son to stay with a man that could possibly be molesting him. And just say, at least he's mentoring him. When his father, all the father does is beat him. I just didn't understand that. I felt it was too stark, too allegorical. I didn't get it. What happens for me is when I get a character, the reason why I write is the more I write, I think I can unlock something. What's their favorite color? What's their first memory? Now, if it's written within an inch of its life, a lot of times it's already in there. I only had 8 minutes, so I had to make up something. And then I ask people questions, of course, because what I need to find out is what is the driving need in their life? What do they live for? Do they want to be loved? Do they want to have control? And I remember an acting teacher of mine, because I kept trying to figure her out. And one of the things she said is, Viola, maybe she leaves her son in that situation. Here's a big aha moment. Because she has no choice.
What are you telling me?
I'm talking about the boy's nature now. Not anything he's done. You can't hold a child responsible for what God gave him to be.
I'm only interested in actions, Mrs. Miller.
But then there's the boy's nature.
Leave that out of it.
Forget it, then. You're the one forcing people to say things. My boy came to your school because they were going to kill him in a public school. His father don't like him. You come to your school, kids don't like him. One man is good to him, this priest. Then does a man have his reasons? Yes. Everybody does. You have your reasons, but do I ask the man why he's good to my son? No. I don't care why. My son needs some man to care about him and to see him through the way he wants to go. And thank God this educated man with some kindness in him wants to do just that.
This will not do.
It's just till June.
I'll throw your son out of this school.
Why would you do that if it didn't start with him?
Because I will stop this.
You'd hurt my son to get your way.
It won't end with your son.
Throw the priest out then.
I am trying to do just that.
Then what do you want from me?
Meryl Streep, your co-star, said the director made you go back and reshoot that scene, reshoot the next day again and again and again and again. And I wondered, did that repetition, how did you use that? How did you continue doing that scene over and over? Because just doing it once seems like it would take a whole lifetime to produce that kind of work.
Well, that's my theater training. I've done plays for over a year, again and again and again. I've done 4-hour plays. I've done one-woman shows. I have over a 40-year career. So he could have done it 50 times and I would have been able to do it over and over again.
And you were unflappable in that.
I was pretty unflappable. You know what? I'm an actor who stays in my lane.
What does that mean?
I'm not trying to be like anyone else. I wasn't trying to be like Adrienne Lennox, who
Auditioned for the part.
She auditioned for the part and she was, she originated the part. Fantastic actor. Great. I'm not trying to be like anyone else. I'm just trying to do what I do. And it did not throw me. And I didn't have enough experience in my life up until that time to have the sort of wisdom for it to throw me. I just thought that this is just what people do when they do a scene with Meryl Streep.
It goes incredibly well. You receive an Oscar nomination. In the aftermath, you talked earlier about getting to a place on How to Get Away with Murder where you had that crisis of faith a little bit.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, in How to Get Away with Murder and in Widows, you said both Shonda Rhimes and Steve McQueen saw something in me that other filmmakers did not. What did they see and explore that the industry seemed to be ignoring?
They saw me as a woman. Usually I'm just seen as mama, with no sexuality, with no mess. Yeah, they saw me as a woman. And they saw me as a complicated woman. And I think notoriously women who look like me are seen limited like that. And we always have to bear the weight and the responsibility of it. Like, why don't you lose some weight? Why don't you make your voice higher? Why don't you do something different with your hair? As if your worth and your personage should be bartered. Our job as artists is to show you a human being. Human beings are vast. It's only in movie and TV land where only the guy who gets the girl always has to look cute. The first scene, if the guy is cute, the woman has got to be cute. If there is a great best friend, then she's usually overweight. She's really, really funny. And my thing, that's not my world. I don't understand that world. The world is way more vast than that. And it's our job to be the conduit to bring the audience that truth. And I think that's what Shonda Rhimes and that's what, and Pete Nowak, who is a showrunner, was the showrunner of How to Get Away with Murder, and Steve McQueen saw in me.
What did it feel like to be seen?
Feels free, man. You know, when other people see you, then it forces you to see yourself. You know, after a while, when a culture defines you, your family defines you, you become trapped in definition and labels. Somewhere in there is you. You know you're in there somewhere, but you don't even know who you are anymore. You sort of filter it into a profession in order to get the job. And then all of who you are gets sort of left in a room somewhere because you feel like it has to look a certain way. No, it doesn't. Sanford Meisner says the most important question an actor can ask is why. I'm going to redefine that question. I think the most important question anyone can ask is why. And then when you get to the end of why, the most really powerful question you can ask is why not? Why can't I be the weight I am now? Why can't I have muscular arms? Why can't I have a deep voice? Why can't I be a love interest? Why do I have to be 35?
Why can't you be that confident performer that you were at Juilliard?
Well, the world hadn't gotten to me yet.
Yes, okay, so now it's gotten to you.
Yeah, the world has gotten to me.
Is this what it looks like to be got to?
Yes, this is what it looks like to be got to.
Can I tell you, it looks pretty damn good.
Well, thank you very much. But what I needed to do is press the pause button and work on the other part of me. You know, the thing about it is I remember every time I would do a really great performance, I would feel so jazzed and so happy and then go home. And Viola didn't feel like anything if she wasn't working. If she wasn't on stage doing a monologue that made everybody cry and stand up and throw flowers, then she was worthless. And as soon as I stepped off the stage, it was like unplugging a phone and the phone losing its charge. The rest of my life looked like a wasteland. And I've realized once again is the reason why I wanted to be a great actress is because I just wanted to be somebody. But that ain't it. It's just not it. And I think, you know, Joseph Campbell talks about slaying dragons and going out there and with mentors and allies. And then you finally get to that inmost cave where you come face to face, not with God, but with yourself. And what I realized is I was always worthy. I didn't have to do anything for that. It's not the power chord anymore. It's just not.
So what is?
I'm the power chord. I am. Every single day when I wake up and put my feet on the floor, my job is to not betray myself. Acting is just one aspect of who I am. And every single time I betray myself, that's it. It's like I've unplugged myself once again. It's what gives my life meaning, which, by the way, what gives my life meaning is my story, completely embracing it. You know, I'm worthy. Who knew? I didn't think that my big thing is, okay, the bedwetter Viola who would chuck a finger all the time and call people cocksucker motherfucker at 6 years old. It was the hardest sentence to write in the book, by the way. No one wanted me to open the book with cocksucker motherfucker were my favorite words when I was growing up. But I wanted to capture little Viola. Little Viola was fantastic. She did not betray herself, ever. She was extremely inappropriate. She was extremely rough around the edges. She smelled. She was unruly. She had 3 pink slips and 4 white slips, disciplinary action, and every single day was in detention. But she was Viola. She was alive. And every single time I feel like I have to go back to heal her, she's sitting on some bench, some imaginary bench saying, you don't have to heal me. I'm perfectly fine. I'm waiting for you to heal yourself so we can just sit and just squeal about this freaking life that we both created. Because I'm the one who got thrust out into the world and let other people get at me.
Your husband said, Viola is never far away from that little girl she talks about. She's never forgot her.
Yeah.
You think he's right?
Oh, absolutely. You know what? When I think about her, it's the only thing that really makes me enjoy my life.
What do you mean? Because
it gives me perspective. I talk about my therapist who said, when I said, I gotta, it's my job to heal this little girl because she was really traumatized because of the violence in the house. He was like, why? I thought she was pretty brave.
Mm-hmm.
She got it done. It's a 55-year-old Viola that needs help. I was like, excuse me, I'm evolved. He was like, let her squeal. They say that only 2 people you owe anything is 6-year-old self and your 80-year-old self.
I do. Yeah. And I only have 2 questions left for us because then we got to go.
Okay.
But speaking of perspective, in 2008, around doubt, when most people were introduced to you and your artistry, you were 43 years old then.
Mm-hmm.
And you did this interview on NPR where they asked you about recognition. Does it mean anything now that you've received the Oscar nomination? And I just want to listen to what you said back then. This is you back in 2008.
I don't care what they say. The bottom line is they want to do something that moves people, that affects them in some way, or else what you do is kind of meaningless. So when you get all the buzz and the reaction, it's hitting someone. The part that means nothing is the part that hasn't translated into anything tangible. Buzz doesn't pay the mortgage. Buzz doesn't, buzz is buzz. And it's also what you don't really do the project for. And I always kind of feel, it's just me. It's once again, they're going to find me out. They're building me up just to knock me down. That's the part that doesn't mean anything because you know what? At the end of the day, you got to keep working. I am a theater-trained actress. I'm not a fluke. I'm not a body. I'm not a face. I'm an actor. I want to be able to do what Helen Mirren, Meryl Streep, all of them are doing. That is my dream.
17 years later, as you turn 60 this year.
It's getting deep.
Is that you say, I'm not a fluke. I'm not a body. I'm not a face.
That's right.
I'm an actor.
Mm-hmm.
To say that in that moment, after all that you had been through to get to that performance in doubt.
Yeah.
To stand on that and to know then, I guess now that you have lived up to everything that you said you wanted to do there, what is the dream for you?
2 things. I'm always trying to find home.
Mm-hmm.
I tell my daughter all the time, I give her that quote, how silly of me that I did not know that I was the love of my life. I'm beginning to understand that. So that, number 1. Number 2, it's my job in life because we will be no more. It's coming and we don't know when it's coming. It's some deep shit out there. But here's the thing. I see life as a relay race. I do. I do see it where you see a relay race and you see all the great runners. Each one that runs their leg of the race is a great runner in and of themselves.
So you're passing the baton.
I'm passing the baton, man, to the next great runner.
Mm.
I need to leave something in people. I do. And you have that dash of time to be able to do it, to be able to make that change. And I think that pretty much the twofold of loving oneself and leaving something behind, that's what makes the life.
Anne Lamott writes, you can either leave something for people or you can leave something in people.
And when you leave something in them, it burns like an ember.
Mm.
It does. It burns forever. You have a lot of people, like Anton Chekhov said, who are living lives in quiet desperation. And all of us can be healers if we choose whatever we choose as an elixir to heal. You could be fabulous at what you're doing. You can even make a lot of money doing it. But ultimately, if the goal is not for it to burst into the air and have it mean something to someone, then you're not doing anything.
Your elixir, since time immemorial, was observation, has been observation.
Yeah.
And my last question for us, because we got to go.
Yeah.
Can you tell me about, as an observer and thief and actor, that woman on the corner, standing in the freezing cold weather that you saw as a child?
I think the one reason why I became an actor is because I see her.
And who is she?
Oh, she's everything. She's a little girl who played with Barbie dolls, who wanted to be somebody. She's probably someone who had a really deep laugh. She's someone who probably fell in love with everything in her being and maybe got her heart broken. She's someone who's worthy of love, belonging. I see her. And I think that's why I became an artist, is because I see her.
When you saw her, where was she at?
She's so many people. Growing up in Central Falls, on Dexter Street, on Broad Street, you know, with the cigarette and the bad skin.
The bloodshot eyes.
The bloodshot eyes.
The dirty sneakers.
Dirty sneakers.
The corduroy coats.
Corduroy coat, you know, that with the fall fur in the inside and the jeans that don't fit. I think that by the time she makes it to the screen, she's been so filtered down into a version, acceptable version of herself. And I think that when you water her down into an acceptable version of herself, you're telling her that you don't love her. You're telling her that you're not meeting her where she is. I meet people where they are. If a role calls for me to take my wig off or to have no makeup or to have snot coming out of my nose because that's who the person is, then I am honoring their truth. It's that's reconciling little Viola. Little Viola who went to school, whose teacher said, you got to go home because you smell so bad, you know. I didn't feel worthy because I felt like I had to filter myself down. I had to go through a machine of worthiness. And worthiness is nothing to be bartered with. It's as is. You are worthy as is. Right now, as my daughter said when she saw this homeless man in Chicago, it was the last day of Widows. She was 6 years old and we were in the car getting ready to go back to the trailer. It was over. And she said, oh, look at that homeless man. Look at Mama. He's dirty and he probably smells bad. Oh my God. And then there was a big pause. And she said, but he's my brother. God says he's my brother. And I think that's the most beautiful, transcendent part of being an actor, is that when you meet people where they are and you channel them where they are, they become your brother. We're wired for connection. And sometimes, for me, that's where I got it from, in my art. And it's been my honor to do that. And sometimes, even if I fail, at least that was the objective.
To see the invisible.
Yes.
To recreate them and make them present and visible to all of us.
Absolutely.
Well, I hope you haven't been watered down or filtered in this conversation.
No, it's been fantastic. Hope none of it gets me in trouble. But you know what? Here's the thing. It's like John Lewis says, maybe I'll get into some good trouble.
I wish that for us both.
Yes.
And speaking of the work, how it lives in me, and I know so many people listening, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Viola Davis, appreciate you coming in.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.